Hello and welcome to the Othelia Joy Show, here for your enjoyment. I am so honored to be doing my first documentary on my beloved country, Liberia. As you all may know, July 26th marks the Independence Day of the Republic of Liberia. Liberia owes its establishment to the American colonization in 1816, where free slaves from America came to Liberia. So for this documentary, you have to stay tuned because you're going to be hearing some personal stories about the Civil War, views on Liberia, and of course, the history of our country. So stay tuned and enjoy this documentary. Once again, happy July 26th. So my last interview is with the president of the Liberian Association here in Sacramento. She's going to talk about her childhood once more. She's also going to talk about the reason she protested. This will be definitely interesting. Our next guest is Miss Hazel. Miss Hazel is the Liberian president here in Sacramento. She's also a discharge planner for the mental health center. This woman is so involved. I guess you said that you're also like a board member of many organizations. Miss Hazel, thank you so much for having this interview with me. I really appreciate it and I can't wait to hear your story. So we're going to start with your childhood in Liberia. Tell me about it.
My childhood in Liberia was very beautiful. I must admit, I was privileged to grow up in Konneh, Nima County. I was there with the first superintendent of Nima County, Gabriel Fangalo, the late Gabriel Fangalo. And I'm proud to say that I was on the first float as a flower girl in Nima County. I went to Simiri Elementary School and migrated to Monrovia and went to Rick's Institute and graduated from 6th grade and then went to Peter Harris Episcopal High, which I graduated from, and went to the University of Liberia.
University of Liberia, nice. It seemed like everybody went to that school.
Yes, I mean it was the local university, affordable in Monrovia at the time, with very high prestige and standard of universities in West Africa. And during my year at the university, we were the ones that were very unfortunate to have the coup. During the transition of the history of Liberia that was moving from the Congo to the indigenous people, where we had the war. The university was affected greatly, where we had, at one time we were rallying on the price of rice going up. And then the government came where Sergeant Samuel Kanyando took over. And at that time, the university students were angry. And we were there going, striking and carrying on. And
wow, such a political leader already at a young age.
And at that time, it was scary because I worked at Copper Clinic, and my aunt used to work at the library. And she went to the library, and they have warned that the students shouldn't go on campus because the next day the government was going to send soldiers on campus.
Wow.
So when I woke up, she said to me, "Do not go on campus." And I said, "Oh no, I'm going to work." So I showered, took the cab, went on campus without her knowing, and we were there striking,
Rebellious. That's the name of the game.
Turning cars over, chanting. We didn't want the government. But by 2 o'clock, around 1:32, I should have gone back to work, so I left. And it was so heartbreaking. When I got to the office, Copper Clinic on 12th Street, I heard the first gunshot. And I'm telling you, at that time, all of the nurses, doctors ran out of Copper Clinic. So I ran in because I was the administrative assistant personnel at the time. So I ran into the clinic, and while I was there, the first taxi came with part of victims from the university. Women with their clothes torn off, beating, women that had been raped.
Oh, goodness.
And at that time, I didn't realize how stressful I was, because I had to take the place of the nurses and assist the doctors in treating most of the patients. So my mother at that time too worked at Cooper Clinic as the nurse, and she was there, and my uncle, all the doctors were there as we went on helping, taking care of people that were wounded and all of that. So we were there. Nobody called my aunt, who I lived with on the old road. So by 12 o'clock that night, my mother realized and said to her cousin, "Do you know we have mommy here? And she is from LU, so she knows all these people. So what can we do?" And he said, "She's doing fine. Don't do anything to her. Let's wait there in the morning and we will take her home." So the next morning they took me home, and my aunt at that time was almost dead. She was so angry. "You won't tell me you've been at Cooper Clinic all this time and nobody told me?" And I said, "Well, we were there helping, and I forgot because there were too many people coming in at that time that we couldn't leave." So right there and then, that's when I think they decided that I had to leave the country and travel to the USA because I have seen too much and they became fighting for me.
I see. Great story. So let's reverse and go back a little bit. So you said that you guys went on a rally. You're chanting that you don't like the government. You said because of the rice going up? Is that what was the reason?
The price of rice was going up.
Wow, so rice was that important?
Rice was that important.
Wow, okay.
Rice was that important, and then also the government with the sergeant coming over, taking over from the political country that have never faced a war before. So during all of the rioting and the excitement of the soldier coming over and taking over the Liberian government, we had people in the streets yelling, illiterate women, people that were not educated, that have seen their child now into power, was running the streets and yelling, "Country woman born soldier, American woman born rogue." So
explain for some of those who might be watching, what does that mean?
It meant that told the illiterate women or the uneducated women that have now seen their sons coming up into power where they have never been. They are now saying they're born soldiers, which means soldiers got power. And the American women or the conquered women that have had all these educated leaders like Tubman, Tauber, they were saying American woman born rogues.
So I see. It's like the role switch.
Yes,
I see.
Role switch.
Like you born like a illiterate woman born like a child, but the child becomes so powerful and smart. And then the smart person born a smart child, but then the child actually
a rogue.
Makes sense.
So that's what they were chanting in the street.
So Auntie Hazel, Mrs. Hazel, did you actually experience the war?
Oh yes.
So tell me about your experience during the war. Like where were you? How did you react to the gunshots?
There were a lot of, I have been so outspoken for a long time because there were times I was at the LU campus and leaving to go to work, and there would be maybe one of the upcoming leaders will come on campus in a big old tinted car, and we drive in front of the girls or the ladies, and someone would jump out and say, "Hey, you over there, my boss wants to talk to you." And you turn around. I used to turn around and say, "When the devil is your boss?" And they're like, "Oh, you see, you Congo girl, you got so much big mouth, you don't know my boss." And I said, "I don't know your boss. If your boss wants to talk to me, let your boss get out of the car."
Hello.
And then right away, I would just jump in the taxi and leave. And during the war, we lived on the old road in front of ACS. And my cousin one day was coming when they had us from dusk to dawn curfew. She went out and she's coming strutting down old road, and one of the soldiers saw her and started shooting in the air. Wow. And I came running on the patio and why in the devil are you shooting in the air for? And
bravery.
He said, "You a Congo girl, I want that one over there." And my aunt running outside. Luckily for us, my uncle, who is the late Joseph Fangalo, was the colonel, one of the colonels in the army. He drove right in front of the house that time, and he saw the soldier in front of the house shooting, and he said to him, "What are you doing here?" And he said, oh, boss man, I'm sorry, I didn't know. So he said, okay, from now on, you got this house. And if anything happened to them in this house, I'll be back for you. So at least we had a soldier that was, guarding the house up to that time. But I was not there for the mean because this was like I came 86. So this was just the beginning of the seriousness. But I mean, people could project that things were going to get worse. So my family decided at that time that I needed to come to the U.S. So I migrated to the U.S. in 1986.
Wow, beautiful story. Such bravery. I mean, a soldier is in front of your house shooting. You went out there and say, hey, why are you shooting? I would be so scared. I would have run back into my house and hide under the bed.
Yeah, my cousin was out there and we were so close. So it's like, if you're going to shoot her, you would have to shoot all of us.
You guys hear that? Yeah. This is what you call a true friendship right there. Somebody you want me to take a bullet for your own parents. And Auntie Hazel, Mrs. Hazel's willing to take a bullet for her cousin. Wow, that's amazing. So let's talk about Ebola. I know you were president during the Ebola crisis, right?
No,
you were not. You came right after. So what was your help during the Ebola crisis?
Well, I didn't do much during the Ebola besides financially giving them support.
Okay.
So yeah, but I mean, my heart was broken. It was tension. I mean, anything that happened within the community and within our country affects every one of us.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't care if it's not in your immediate family. You get to know families that have suffered from it.
Right.
So really, it broke my heart. And it still is because we still don't have ample medications, doctors, and what have you in Liberia.
You're so right. Did you know anyone in Liberia during the Ebola crisis? Were families back home?
I got all my family back home. I mean, my siblings.
What did they tell you about during the crisis? Like, what were they saying? Were they saying
during
they can't?
The crisis, it was so funny because I told them I sent money for Clorox, hydrogen peroxide, and then of the first aid that I knew could do things. But I didn't realize that they were washing their hands with plain Clorox. Until she called me, when my sister called me and said, oh, my hand's peeling. And I said, what are you doing?
Right.
And she said, I'm washing my hand with the Clorox. I said, no, I didn't tell you that. I told you put a little cup of Clorox in a bucket of water.
Yes.
And keep it so when people coming in, they wash their hands. And when people going out, you know. I said, but please don't do that and don't tell anybody I told you to do that.
Wow. Okay, so where do you see Liberia? Do you think we're progressing? Do we have a promising future? We
do have a promising future. And this is where each and every Liberian needs to join forces because it's serious. We have to begin to trust, respect one another. Our country was built on faith. We put God first in everything that we end up doing. And for this to happen to us is and was a rude awakening for Liberians. And it really, up till now, talking about Liberia and what happened in Liberia, as much as I was there, I say this is where my passion really takes over. Because now Liberians have traveled all over the world. I don't care if I haven't been to Europe, or Liberian is now in Europe. Or Liberian is now in Alaska. Or Liberian is now, I don't know where. So when you can put all of the knowledge and experience that Liberians have gathered all over the world and take the best back to our country, I can see there is hope for Liberians to become better and the country to grow. The only thing we have to do is, as I say, is respect one another, trust one another, and mentor our youth. I mean, all of us cannot be doctors, all of us cannot be presidents, all of us cannot be lawyers. So we will have some street cleaners, we will have some construction workers. We need people to build back Liberia. We need us to go back to Liberia and do a lot of things. So I'm hopeful. I'm very, very hopeful that the educations that gather from all over the world going back to that small, minute country, oh yes, we can take over the world.
Well said. I could not have said that any better. Auntie Hazel, thank you so much for taking time and telling us your story about the war, your thoughts on Liberia. It was very inspiring. Thank you so much.
Not only that I had the privilege of interviewing my guests, but I also got to hear their point of views, and this is what they had to say.
Liberian, I'm proud to say that I truly is a Liberian in America, Sacramento, California, and also the president of the Association of Citizens and Friends of Liberia. My memory back home and what I cherish more of our culture and family values back home is I grew up as a child, never at home by myself. We always had either a grandmother, a sister, a cousin, a brother, or somebody home. We ate together, we prayed together, we played together. I could leave my house and walk 2 blocks to another house just to see a friend, and I could eat a meal at their house like I'm home without anybody even offering me the food. I just get there and I'm hungry, there's food. That's the part of Liberia that I always will remember. The sad part is the greed in our country and among us. The envy we have of one another, the bitterness we have among ourselves is what I really hate and prayed about every day that we can do away with. I mean, if your brother becomes a lawyer, dance, cherish your brother, pray for your brother, lift your brother up. But do not bring your brother down because your brother has succeeded in something that the Lord has prepared for us. Because remember, we have 5 fingers. If the Lord wanted us to all be the same, all fingers will be even. So we have to respect that of one another. That's the part I really, truly do not like about Liberians. Another thing I do not like about us as that in that country is when a leader takes over, the whole family become part of that leadership. And that leadership, if that leadership goes down, the whole family goes down. Remember, all of those 30 men that were shot at the barracks for serving the country. That's another thing no child or nobody can never ever forget. I mean, I take my heart bleeds each day when I think about it, because those were people that I grew up with. Those were family that I know. So with me saying that, I know there is hope. I see the future bright for Liberians because we can do it. We have served the Almighty God. We have traveled long, far away. We have always managed to come back together. So as the president of the Association of Citizens and Friends of Liberia, right here in our community, there's a saying, you fall down, you get up. So we fall, we fight, but when there's work to be done, we come together and we work. So I believe Liberia will become Liberia and will be a great country in Africa when things all get together, when all the puzzles are placed together. So God bless Liberia and happy Independence Day.
And that's it. I hope you had a wonderful time watching the July 26th documentary. Once again, happy Independence Day to all my fellow Liberians and friends of Liberia all around the globe. As we gather to celebrate the 169 years anniversary of our homeland, let us not forget who we are and where we come from. Let us remind ourselves that though we may be from many tribes, we're still one nation. Our Liberian people are proud, resourceful, patriotic, despite all the hardship and horror of the Civil War. We continue to rise and put our nation first. The future holds nothing but possibilities if we just work together for the common good of Liberia.
Long live the Republic of Liberia, and long live the Liberian people. Happy July 26th. My 26th on you all.